The hearing room was packed, the air heavy with formality and unspoken tension. Jasmine Crockett sat across from Judge Amy Coney Barrett, ready to testify on civil liberties and judicial impartiality. What started as a calm panel discussion quickly escalated into what would become the most talked-about moment in modern legal discourse. Crockett, well-prepared, sharp, and unafraid, raised questions about bias within the federal court system and how cultural disconnects often lead to institutional injustice. Barrett responded with cool detachment, brushing off the concerns as anecdotal. That alone created murmurs in the gallery, but it was what followed that would spark a national firestorm. A moment so jarring it shattered the room's silence and exposed a rift too deep to ignore. As Crockett described systemic blind spots in elite legal circles, Barrett interrupted. "I understand your concerns, Ms. Crockett, but maybe if you spent less time appealing to outrage and more time engaging the law, you'd get results." Crockett held her gaze steady before calmly replying, "Respectfully, Judge, I'm appealing to justice, not outrage." Barrett, visibly annoyed, leaned forward and said, "And maybe if you spent more time in courtrooms than in sound bites, you'd understand the difference then." Under her breath, but clearly into the microphone, she muttered, "Why don't you go back to your hood where that rhetoric belongs?" The room froze. Every head turned. Crockett sat motionless, her face unreadable, for a full second before she slowly reached for her microphone. What followed would ripple across the nation. Crockett cleared her throat and said, "Judge, I come from a community that taught me strength, not shame. You call it the hood, I call it home. And if you think justice lives only in marble halls and Ivy League degrees, then maybe you've forgotten who the Constitution was written for." The audience gasped as reporters scrambled to take notes. Barrett's face tightened, but she said nothing. Crockett continued, "I wear my background like armor, not baggage, and I bring voices into this room that you'd never hear otherwise. I am not the problem, Judge. I am the proof that justice belongs to more than just those born into it." Her words rang like a bell across the chamber. The moderator tried to move on, but the energy had shifted completely. Crockett, now in full command of the moment, looked around the room with calm authority. "Every person here needs to decide," she said, "whether you believe justice is a country club or a contract. If you only listen when people speak your language, then it's not justice, it's control."
Yes.
Barrett tried to reframe her remark as a miscommunication, but the damage was done. Hashtags exploded online within minutes. "Go back to her hood" trended with outrage, but so did Crockett power and hood means Homer. Speech went viral overnight, and clips were replayed on every major network, sparking fierce debates about class, race, and the arrogance of institutional gatekeeping. Civil rights leaders quickly rallied around Crockett, praising her composure and clarity under attack. Celebrities reposted her quotes, students held walkouts in support, and even law professors called her remarks textbook constitutionalism. One professor tweeted that wasn't just a response, that was a masterclass in civic dignity. Meanwhile, Barrett faced mounting backlash. The comment was widely condemned from all sides, including from those who usually aligned with her ideologically. Though she issued a statement of clarification, it lacked the contrition many demanded. Crockett, on the other hand, gave only one interview where she stated, "I don't want an apology. I want people to listen when we speak, before it becomes a performance." On a national stage, the aftermath extended far beyond the hearing room. Schools added her speech to civics discussions, and late-night hosts replayed the moment repeatedly. Her calm fire, her choice not to escalate but to educate, turned what could have been a shouting match into a nationwide reckoning. Crockett began receiving invitations from universities, law panels, and community organizations to speak on dignity and discourse. Her response was not just seen as personal defense, but as representation. For millions who had been silenced in similar ways, she had taken a slur and turned it into a statement. She had flipped the script without flipping a single word in anger. The public saw it all live. Meanwhile, Barrett's office struggled with public image. Her long reputation of conservative discipline now came with a heavy asterisk. Commentators across ideological lines questioned her judgment, if not her fitness. While some defenders insisted the comment was taken out of context, the clip left little ambiguity. The phrase became symbolic not just of one moment, but of an entire perception of class and cultural separation within the justice system. In private, reportedly one of Barrett's former clerks resigned, citing a lack of confidence in the impartiality required of the bench. The Supreme Court remained silent, but the echo in the nation was louder than any ruling they had made that term. Crockett remained measured in the days following. She did not capitalize on the virality. She returned to her district, met with constituents, and doubled down on the local reforms she had long been advocating for. Reporters followed her every move, but she refused to turn the moment into a spectacle when asked what she would say to Judge Barrett now. She responded, "Nothing. I already said what I needed to say, and I said it with respect, because respect is what my community taught me, not what the system handed me." That statement too went viral. Her dignity had become its own form of protest, her silence its own form of power. Months later, Crockett would be honored at multiple civic awards ceremonies, but each time she reminded the audience that this wasn't about her. It was about all the people who get spoken over and talked down to because of how they speak, where they're from, or what they wear. She spoke about growing up with more ambition than access, and about how the courtroom should reflect the country, not just its elite. She ended one speech by saying, "The hood raised me, the law tried to erase me, but I'm still standing right here." And that line carved itself into the national memory like a statue without stone or steel years. From now, when that moment is retold, it will not be remembered for the insult, but for the response. It will be remembered as the day a woman reminded the nation that power doesn't equal worth and background doesn't limit brilliance. Judge Barrett had underestimated her opponent, and the world had watched it unfold. Jasmine Crockett didn't just defend herself. She defended everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong, and she did it with words that couldn't be erased. She didn't need to yell, didn't need to curse. She simply stood her ground, spoke her truth, and changed the room forever. America didn't just hear her that day. America listened.